know you were
See, Jack, are you here or in Philly? Where are you?
We're in Philadelphia.
Oh,
Yeah. So
okay. Everything
we
you
got
good out there? How are they holding up?
thank God we're doing all right. We're really anxious to get to Baltimore, though.
All
It's been
right.
too long.
They have a lot of COVID-related illnesses there. What's going on in?
Yeah. It's around. It's around. My next door neighbor works on an ambulance for the fire department and medic. So I hear all his stories. So.
All the horror stories. All right. Anyway, stay well. Who's taking? You have children out there? Who's helping you?
Judy and I are here. We're doing okay.
Who's shopping for you?
You know what?
You're not over 60 yet, right? I forgot.
No, that's right. Yeah, okay. Let it go with that.
I mean, your wife isn't, I meant.
Yeah, for sure not.
Anyway, I want to thank tonight's sponsors. I'm looking for them, but I don't see them yet. I guess if you sponsor, you don't have to listen. You get off the hook. But Susan and David Kaplan, want to thank them for sponsor. Oh, no, that's tomorrow's Daf Yomi. I'm sorry. Tonight's Daf Chizuk. Okay, I'm not sure if anyone's sponsoring tonight. That's Daf Yomi. I take that back. I love you anyway, but it's tomorrow Daf Yomi. But tonight I don't think we have any sponsor, but we have birthdays. Aroni Felder and Esther Gidl Shafanovitz, Gavi Langer, Kayla Jacoby, and Maya Rubin, my good friends. May Hashem bless you all with long life and good health, and we share many simchas together. Today, unfortunately, was not an easy day. I mean, every day there's always casualties, but one of my sister-in-law lost a father. I don't know if anyone is here from Detroit. His name was Rabbi Shael Zacharias. He was a Rav in Detroit for 56 years, after having served as a Rav in several other places. He was a legend. He was a Mayel. He was a remarkable man, and he was a Talmud of Bnei Yisrael. He was instrumental in the early days of sending different young men to yeshiva. Among them, one of my good friends, Reb Shmuel Rachkin, was sent in Israel through his involvement. Wonderful man, and he passed away. He had several illnesses, but he got COVID at the end, and he was actually in a nursing home in Lakewood, and the end was it took a toll. So really, really hard for our family today. My sister-in-law is sitting Shiva. He's being sent to Eretz Yisrael on a private charter. I don't know how they arranged that, but to be buried next to his wife passed away not long ago, so they're being buried in Eretz Yisrael. May my sister-in-law have a nechama. May the whole family have a nechama. May Klal Yisrael have a nechama. May we stop hearing from all these horrible tragedies. May Hashem bring Yom L'Tzaras Eino Dai. I want to tonight continue. I like to talk a little bit about the spheres, the correspondence of the day. So this week we went into Tiferes. Tiferes is the midah of beauty or harmony, more accurately, and just a rudiment understanding of it. Each of the Shivas Rayim represent a different midah. So of course, the first 2 weeks it starts with Chesed, Gvura, then Tiferes, and then Netzach, Hoyd, Yesod, and Malchus. So the first week is Chesed, is Avram. Chesed, you do outgoing, and just and just giving, the emulating Hashem in His selfless giving. that's Avram. Yitzchak is more introspective, is more control. Gvura, the ability to gird himself and request from his father to tie him so he can give him his neck to the Akedah, and all the challenges of being able to overcome the emotional strain of dealing with a brother Yishmael, raising a son like Esav, and holding back perhaps some of his reactions, which requires a tremendous gvura. Gvura is turning inward and showing self-control. One is outward chesed and gvura. And these are two midas. And of course, each one of the others had all the midas, but each Av exemplified something specific. And of course, when it came to Yaakov, he was the merge of chesed and gvura. When you put chesed and gvura together, and you do it in a way that they complement each other, they're not in conflict with each other, and that in the gvura you see the chesed, and in the chesed you see the gvura, and they merge seamlessly, that's when it's the glory of Torah. That's another phrase that's used for Tiferes is emes, because emes is the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chesama Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When we live a life of self-discipline, which is Gvura, but at the same time, reaching outwards. There are many people who only give outwards, but they don't have self-discipline. There are many people who live a life of self-discipline, but they don't necessarily reach out to others. When you have that balance, that's the perfect replication of the Midah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that speaks for itself. And tonight, we're going to transition. I'll talk about the Sir we're going to count. It's already after Shkia, but after Ma'ariv is Netzach Sheba Teferes, which means that when you get Teferes in its perfect complement of Gvur and Chesed, then it's eternity because it's Emes. And not only in eternity, Netzach also comes from the concept of Nitzachon, to be victorious, is to be compelling. When you see a person who lives a life of discipline and thoughtfulness, and not just impulse and indulgence, but at the same time, he doesn't allow that drive for self-discipline to keep him in a shell, but he's able to reach outwards at the same time and be magnanimous and not impose his personal gvura on those around him and allow the chesed of Avram to radiate even while in his heart he's working on his personal self-discipline and holding himself back. That's the most compelling representation of Torah. That is the key in success in bringing nitzchias, eternity, to those who are privy to it, to be drawn into it and want to emulate it. And that's really what Teferes tonight is, Netzach Sheba Teferes. I want to share a story about someone I know who never passed away over these weeks from COVID. He was the Sasregener Rebbe. He had a shul on East 24th. The last stop was on East 24th Street between Avenues L and M. And it was a legendary shul. It was a very interesting shul. My brother has been saying the Daf Yomi there, I think, for maybe 40 years, if not more, for 45 years since I'm married, I think. And he's been there. My brother gives a Daf Yomi for many, many years. And some of my brothers told me that when they have children in Baltimore, they come here to my Daf Yomi, and Aaron Siviak, if you know who he is, one of them. And it's a legendary shul. Sasregener Rebbe was someone who was, his parents were killed in the Holocaust. He survived, and he came to America. He had a brother, the Mujai Rebbe. He had a brother, the Sulitzer Rebbe in Far Rockaway. And he had a shul in various places, once in Flatbush, East Flatbush, and then he moved to Flatbush itself. And he was an old world Rebbe. He was, rootin' tootin' with the White Sox and the Streimel, but a lovely man. Our families, my family, not just through my brother, my father lived in Midwood, and he was at he was at my chasna, he was at all my brother's weddings. We were close to the Rebbe. He was a very warm, very special man, and very kind and very loving. And he represented, the old world. He brought over the traditions of, many of us come from Caesar backgrounds, and the warmth and the warmth and the excitement and the passion of Hasidus. And but he also brought that mizug, that perfect distilling of chesed and gevura that radiates and brings close. I want a story that I saw recently. I think it encapsulates its chus for him. Carbon of the COVID. He was an older man, obviously, but he was susceptible to it, and Nebuchadnezzar took his life. And but I'd like to read the story. I think it's a lesson for all of us, because, and I'll sum it up when we read the story after I tell you the story. So there's a famous individual who's makar of a lot of kids in Flatbush. His name is Avi Fishoff. He has a twisted parenting, he calls it. He has a whole methodology, a little bit controversial, but he's done remarkable things based on the Nesiv Shalom. And he, in the early 2000s till 2014, he had a place that he opened up, which is called Home Sweet Home, which was a place for kids who couldn't stay home or were living on the street, and there was a place for them. But before it opened up, there was a boy, his name was Eli, who was living on the streets for several years, and he came his way to this Avi Fishoff, and he said, listen, I'm gonna take you into my house. I'm going to give you a bedroom in my house, but there's just one deal. When I go to shul, you go to shul. You don't have to daven. You don't have to put on a yarmulke. You don't have to put on tefillin. But where I go, you go. And when I go to work, you can come. He wanted the kid home. He wanted to be, keep his eye on him. And he said, fine. And he was masking. So every morning, Avi Fishoff would daven at Sasregan, at this shul, Sasregan, on 24th in Flatbush. And he would take Avi with him, he'd take Eli with him. And Eli would go to shul, and they made no expectations of him. He came without a yarmulke, barehead. Imagine going to Hasidic shtibel. He came barehead, sit in the back, minding his business, not davening a word, not putting on tefillin. The first day he came, after Shacharis, Reb Mordechai David Rubin, the Sasregan Rebbe, goes over, and he asks Avi, who is it? He says, a boy, I don't really know him. He's been living on the streets for a couple of years. And I took him into my house. The Rebbe went over to Eli, and he offered him a drink. And, Eli saw, another a rabbinic figure. The reason why he was on the streets, because he rejected rabbinic figures. So he receded, he stood back. But the Rebbe wasn't fazed. And the Rebbe went over and brought him a cup of coffee and a piece of cake. And that went on day after day. The Rebbe would humbly greet Eli with a warm smile and bring him coffee and a piece of cake, never asking him why he wasn't wearing a yarmulke, or if he had put on tefillin, or why he didn't daven a word. A few weeks went on, and one Motzei Shabbos, Eli's going up to his attic apartment, bedroom in Fishoff's house, and he says, oh, shoot. He says, I can't believe it. The rabbi we see each morning? The previous week, I told him that I'm going to start putting on tefillin, and I said it would be this Sunday. I can't believe it's tomorrow. Sunday morning, Eli accompanies Avi to Sasregan Shul, like he always did, and he promised, and he put on tefillin for the first time in many years. Avi gave Eli an article sitter, and he said Shema, and he spent 10 minutes saying it. Avi was flabbergasted, watching this miracle unfold before his eyes. This was a kid who had lived on the streets for so many years, casting off anything related to Yiddishkeit. And yet he was putting on tefillin. It was surreal. How did it happen? Avi found out the answer at the front of the shul in the person of Sasregan Rebbe, who had seemingly accomplished the impossible. With a smile, coffee, and cake. No judgmental questions, just a simple, old-fashioned recipe of genuine care and concern. Chesed and Gvura makes Tiferes. It wasn't on the first day or the first week or the second week. Apparently, the Rebbe had waited a bit of a time until he felt it was the right time to ask. And although Eli didn't agree to start wearing tefillin that day, he agreed to start the following week. Because deep down, the Rebbe had already warmed away many of the thick layers of pain and rejection with a gentle, accepting smile, a piece of cake, and a cup of coffee. Upon finishing Shema, Eli turned to Avi shaking. He says, wow, said Eli solemnly, this is such powerful stuff. I never knew. Ever since that Sunday morning, over 15 years ago, Eli has put on tefillin every day. He's an Elach Yid, he has a beautiful family, he has a great source of nachas to Klal Yisrael and Avi. It is a credit to Sasregan Rebbe, a gentle giant, who was taken from us in the Elam Mishul Pesach. In his quiet way, without fire, brimstone, rebuke, or passionate speeches, the Rebbe broke through the heart of stone with affability, care, and concern until he felt comfortable broaching the subject of tefillin with his newfound friend. The power of the sweetness of a tzaddik is never to be underestimated. And I think I've seen this. I've been involved in this avodah over many years. I had a yeshiva, and I dealt with kids and teenagers. You know what they respond to? You could be as nice as them as can be. You can knock yourself out for them. Chesed alone doesn't do it. When they see someone who represents Gvura, who represents someone who lives a lifestyle that's very different than theirs, but they live it consistently, and they observe it, and they see the way they daven, and the way they watch their mouth, and the way they act. They see Gvura. But when they see the Gvura in its magnificence, combined with Chesed, then they want to connect to that Gvura. And they realize that it's not just Chesed, it's not Gvura. There are a lot of people who try to be Makarev just with Chesed. It doesn't work. You may capture hearts and can make a bond, but it doesn't change people. And many people who present a very austere and strong commitment of Yirat Hashem, and some people are inspired by that, but it doesn't change people. When you come across people who are Tiferes, who represent the harmony, and that is really what Hashem is, it's Gvura and Chesed together, then the Emes draws in itself. That's the Netzach, the victory of Tiferes, is the most compelling influence on those who come into contact with Emes. We all, hopefully, some of us are at the end of that, we're never at the end, but some are earlier in the stage, and some are middle of the stage, some end of the stage, raising children or just influencing people around us. Our children will certainly be impressed by how kind we are to them. They may be impressed by the commitment, self-discipline that they see in their parents, but they won't emulate the self-discipline unless they also experience the tiferes, the kindness. They won't necessarily be influenced by your kindness unless they also see that you live a life of self-discipline. When they see and they appreciate that there's something harmonious, there's something that radiates in a way that creates a MS that you can't deny, that you just so compelling, it's such an etzachain that they realize that touching eternity, they want to be part of it. That's the key. Netzach Sheva Tiferes. That's our job. We have to live a life of self-discipline. Each one of us on the level that we're capable of and we understand, it has to be coupled with chesed, because if it's one without the other, then we're really not representing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the avodah of Netzach Sheva Tiferes. May we live the life and be impressed and be inspired by a figure like the Sasregan Rebbe, who was a person who lived his life in the same manner, in the same rituals and restrictions and Kedusha and Tara that his ancestors lived in Romania and all the way back to the Baal Shem Tov. And nevertheless, he was able to connect through the presentation of Tiferes, because that chesed that radiates through the Gevura creates such a Tiferes that's so compelling that Netzach, it wins, it captures hearts. May we all be zeicher to find that merging of these two qualities in our lives and capture the hearts of all those that we come in company with as we climb up the ladder of Sfiras Omer and the accomplishments we have to make in life. Thank you very much. I'm going to open up the audience if anyone would like to share.